In this video, we're going to discuss about the limit of trigonometric functions. So limit of sine x as x approaches c is sine c. Limit of cosine x as x approaches c is cosine c. Limit of tan x as x approaches c is tan c. Limit of cot x as x approaches c is cot c. Limit of sec x as x approaches c is sec c. Limit of cosecant x as x approaches c is cosecant c. So sa madaling salita, sa trigonometric functions, pwede yung direct substitution. So let's have an example. Okay, so for example, number 1, hanapin natin yung limit ng tan x as x approaches 0. So pwede mo yan i-direct substitution. So tangent 0. And what is tangent 0? Okay, that is sine 0 over cosine 0, no? But since yung sine 0 ay 0, tapos cosine 0 ay 1, 0 over 1, that is 0. Okay, so ganun lang siya kasimple. So number 2, limit of x sine x as x approaches pi over 2. So substitute lang natin yan, pi over 2 sine pi over 2. What is sine pi over 2? That is 1. So pi over 2 times 1, that is pi over 2. Okay? So next, limit of 2x over pi ng cosecant x as x approaches pi over 2. So this is 2 pi over 2 over pi ng cosecant pi over 2. So this is equal to cancel. Tapos itong pi over pi, cancel din, no? Then what is cosecant pi over 2? Kung matatandaan nyo, yung cosecant ay reciprocal yan ng sine, no? So kapag nakuha natin yung sine pi over 2, so ano ba yung sine pi over 2? That is 1. Okay, so syempre, yung cosecant niya will be 1 also. Okay? So ganun lang siya kasimple. Now let's have special trigonometric limits. Number 1, limit of sine x over x as x approaches 0 equals 1. Number 2, limit of 1 minus cosine x over x as x approaches 0 equals 0. Then limit of x over sine x, nasa ilalim naman yung sine x, as x approaches 0 is 1. Then limit of x over 1 minus cosine x as x approaches 0 must not be equal to 0 or not equal to 0. Okay? So itong mga special trigonometric limits, magagamit natin to lalo na kapag ang lumalabas sa limits ng limit ng trigonometric function ay indeterminate form. So let's have our examples. Okay, so let's try number 1, limit of tan x over x as x approaches 0. So itry muna natin direct substitution. So we have tan 0 over 0, and what is tangent 0? That is 0 over 0. Ang lalabas ay indeterminate form. So dito, kung hindi pwede yung direct substitution, dito natin magagamit yung special trigonometric limit. Okay, so ulitin natin, limit as x approaches 0 ng tan x over x. So by the way, una muna natin gamitin, kung naaalala nyo pa, yung trigonometric identity. Take note, the tangent is sine over cosine. So gawin natin sine over cosine yan. So that is sine x over cosine x all over x. So bababa yung cosine. So this will be sine x over x cosine x. So dito, pag hiwalayin natin to, so gawin nating limit as x approaches 0 ng sine x over x, tapos gawin nating 1 over cosine x. Okay? So bakit natin pinaghiwalay? By the way, pwede nating i-apply yung property ng limit. So product yan. So this is equal to the product of their limits, no? So limit sine x over x as x approaches 0 times limit of 1 over cosine x as x approaches 0. So dito magagamit natin yung special trigonometric limit. So according sa limit nito, yung limit daw ng sine x over x is equal to 1, no? So this is equal to 1. And what is limit of 1 over cosine x as x approaches 0? So dito direct substitution lang yan, 1 over cosine 0. Cosine 0, that is 1. So 1 times 1, this is equal to 1. So ganyan lang kasimple yung limit niya. For number 2, find the limit of sine 4x over x as x approaches 0. So try ulit natin, direct substitution, sine 4 times 0 over 0. So this is 0. What is sine 0? That is 0 over 0, indeterminate form. So hindi ulit pwede yung direct substitution. So ulitin natin, sine 4x over x as x approaches 0. So paano ngayon to magkaiba? Ito ay 4x, ito yung x, pero doon sa trigonometric limits natin dapat pareho. Okay? So paano gagawin natin dyan? Ang gagawin natin dyan, magmumultiply tayo sa numerator tsaka sa denominator ng 4. Okay? So kumbaga parang nagmultiply ka lang dito ng 1. So this is limit as x approaches 0, sine 4x over x times 4 over 4. So parang nagmultiply ka lang ng 1, walang nabago. Okay, so para saan to? So ito, yung nasa numerator, ilalabas mo lang yan. Property of limit, no? Yung constant, ilalabas lang natin. Tapos, anong gagawin natin sa denominator? Ang gagawin natin sa denominator, ilalagay natin dito. Magiging ano na siya, sine 4x over 4x. Tapos pareho na sila. Okay, kumbaga, ilet natin na y equals 4x, magiging sine y over y. So, pwede na natin gamitin yung idea ng trigonometric, special trigonometric limit. So, what is limit nito? As x approaches 0 dapat So, ito daw ay 1. So, 4 times 1, that is 4. Okay? For number 3, limit of sine 3x over sine 5x as x approaches 0. So again, kapag direct substitution yan, that will be sine 0 over sine 0, and that is 0 over 0, indeterminate form. So ulitin natin, sine 3x over sine 5x. So dito, magmumultiply tayo ng, kopyahin muna natin, magmumultiply tayo ng 5x over 5x. Para sa yung 5x over 5x? Partner yan dito. So para sa 3x naman, magmumultiply tayo ng 3 over 3. Bakit wala ng x dito? Kasi yung 5x sa numerator, para dito, may natirang 5x sa denominator, which is yung x dito, ayun na lang yung kasama ng 3. Para 3x, yun yung kapartner ng 3x sa numerator. So ano yung hindi magagamit? Yung 3 over 5. Yun yung ilalabas natin. So this will be equal to 3 over 5 limit as x approaches 0 ng paghiwalay na natin sine 3x over 3x tapos 5x over sine 5x. Okay, property of limit, magiging 3 over 5 times limit of sine 3x over 3x as x approaches 0 times limit of 5x over sine 5x as x approaches 0. Okay? So sa special trigonometric limit, this is 1 and this is 1 also, no? So 3 over 5 times 1 times 1. So this will be equal to 3 over 5.